Have you ever lived through a life so cruel? Every memory burns like hot iron against your skin. That was exactly what happened to me, back in my past life. My elder sister lay deathly ill. And my wicked stepmother twisted the whole situation. She tricked me into climbing into the bed of my sister's husband, the Marquis. After that night, my stepmother screamed that I was shameless trash. She demanded I spend my whole life slaving away to make amends for the sin they'd forced on me. Strangely enough, my dying elder sister was the only one who offered me any shred of mercy. Right after she passed away on her wedding night, she arranged for me to enter the Marquis household as his secondary wife. Years rolled by. My sister's 2 children grew up, got married and built lives of their own. I wasn't even 30 years old. Yet every piece of my spirit had worn thin. I wasted away, confined to my deathbed. Piers, the Marquis, stood beside me. His face was usually cold as ice, but for the very first time, real emotion flickered across his features. That was when he spilled the awful truth. It had all been plotted from the very start. My elder sister and my stepmother had dreamed up the whole trap, and Piers had simply gone along with their scheme. "If there is another life," he'd murmured to me, "I will give you a child." I stared out at the peach blossoms drifting past the window. Using every last spark of strength left in my failing body, I pushed his hand away. Then darkness swallowed me. When my eyes fluttered open again, I was standing in a parlor, holding a bowl of steaming bird's nest soup for my stepmother. I had traveled back in time. This go-around, she would be the one destroyed by her own wicked schemes. Steam curled upward from 2 bowls of bird's nests sitting right in front of me. My stepmother sat across the table. Her skin was perfectly maintained, and she wore a soft, gentle smile. I gazed down at those bowls, and every nightmare from my previous existence flooded straight back into my mind. Once I drank that soup in my old life, I woke naked and aching in Piers' bed. Panic crashed over me. Then the doors flew open. My stepmother and my stepsister stood in the doorway. My stepmother struck me so hard my ears rang. She pointed her finger directly in my face, shouting that I was vile. Piers pulled his clothing into place and stared at me like I was nothing but disgusting filth. My father flew into a towering rage. He nearly beat me to death. My elder sister took pity on my suffering. Even so, after she died on that fateful wedding night, she still arranged for me to become Piers' secondary spouse. For 10 long years before I turned 30, I drank bitter contraceptive tonics he brought me. Every drop stole my chance to bear a child. It drained every bit of my vitality. I lowered my gaze. I forced all that boiling hatred deep down inside where no one could see it. When I lifted my head again, a faint, easy smile played across my lips. My fingertips brushed the edge of my bowl. All of a sudden, I snapped my head toward the window, acting thoroughly surprised. "Wait a minute," I said out loud. "Isn't Jade standing out there?" Jade was my elder sister's youngest daughter. My stepmother had doted on that girl more than anything in the world. Exactly as I guessed, my stepmother twisted her head quickly to look toward the window. That split second was all I needed. In one quick motion, I swapped the 2 bowls of bird's nest soup. When my stepmother turned her eyes back to our table, the space by the window stood empty. There was no sign of Jade at all. "I swear I saw her just a second ago," I mumbled. I lifted my bowl and took a small sip. Maybe the rockery blocked our view. Right away, my stepmother ordered a maid to go check around the rockery garden. She glanced back at our table. She saw I had already finished half of my serving of bird's nest soup. Her smile widened. "Mother," I told her, tipping my head pleasantly, "you ought to drink yours too. It will taste terrible once it grows cold." "Very well," she replied. My stepmother picked up the bowl that now held the doctored soup. One slow spoonful after another, she ate its contents. I kept my eyes lowered. I watched the movement of her throat as she swallowed. In my old life, drinking that very soup had shattered my whole future beyond repair. Now it was her turn to taste that ruin. That day marked my father's birthday. Since my elder sister was gravely unwell, our household skipped the big lavish celebration. Only a handful of close family acquaintances came for the feast. My elder sister looked terribly frail. Thick layers of makeup could not hide how gaunt and worn out she had grown. My stepmother told me to walk her back to her private chambers so she could rest. My elder sister clamped tight onto my hand. She moved very slowly as we walked into her room. She leaned against her bed frame and turned to face me. "Xiao Xiao," she asked quietly. "What do you think of Piers?" I put on a look of genuine confusion. "Elder sister," I answered her. "I already have a formal betrothal. You shouldn't be asking me questions like that." She studied me for a long moment, then gave a faint smile. "This illness is making my mind foggy. Please do not hold that against me." With those words, she lay back on her bed and slipped fast into sleep that I watched the candle flame flicker and dance. My thoughts drifted straight back to my past life. My elder sister feared that once Piers remarried, he would treat her 2 children cruelly. Even though I already had a fiancé, she had joined hands with my stepmother to set that terrible trap. They robbed me of my honor. They ruined my reputation. They forced me to marry into the Marquis estate. And for the rest of my days inside those walls, they controlled every single part of my existence. This new life was different. I would let them dig their own graves. That not long after drinking the spiked bird's nest, my stepmother's eyelids grew heavy. She slumped over, leaning all her weight against my shoulder. I supported her body as I walked toward Piers' sleeping quarters. I pushed open his chamber door that the air inside reeked of wine. Piers lay fully clothed upon his bed, his eyes shut tight. By the glow of candlelight, I could make out every line of his face. A wave of sharp nausea rolled through my chest. I remembered what had happened in my past life. He had not been completely drunk that night. He had seen perfectly clearly that it was me. Still, he had chosen not to stop any of it. That I drew in a deep breath. I softened my voice. "Second young lady, rest in here for just a little while. I shall return shortly." I gently guided my stepmother behind the bed curtains. Then I blew out the burning candle. A moment later I pulled the door closed behind me. From inside the room came rustling sounds. Fabric shifted. The bed hangings swayed back and forth. Mixed into all that noise, I could hear a woman's muffled struggles and soft, broken whimpers. I tilted the corners of my mouth upward. I turned and walked away. Segment 2. Facing my birth mother, I headed straight for my birth mother's rooms. She sat bent over, carefully embroidering my wedding gown. A small, tender smile rested on her lips. She was completely absorbed in her work. When she noticed me walk in, her eyebrows drew together slightly. "Aren't you supposed to be in the front hall keeping elder sister company?" she asked. "Why have you come back here?" If this had been my previous life, those words would have sparked a bitter quarrel right away. I used to think she was shallow, vain, and trivial. I resented how she always pushed me to spend time with my stepmother and stepsister. But after that horrible scandal unfolded long ago, she had been the very only person who believed I had been framed. She had smashed her forehead hard against the floor, begging my father to uncover the real truth. Even so, to preserve the family's public name, I was still sent off to wed the Marquis. After that terrible day, she never wore cosmetics again. She set aside all her fine jewelry and brand new garments. When I visited her 1 year after my marriage, she looked as if she had aged 10 full years overnight. She handed me a cloth bundle. Inside were all her ornaments and fancy dresses, traded away for gold and silver coins. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she spoke. "Your mother lacks the power to protect you, Xiao Xiao. Please look after yourself, no matter what." Later on, Piers banned me from visiting my family home. I never even got to see her one final time before she passed, staring at her familiar face lit by lamplight in this present life. My eyes filled with tears. That my mother panicked. She set down the needlework, stood up and reached out to touch my cheeks. "What is wrong? Did your stepmother scold you?" I threw myself right into her arms. I could not hold back my tears any longer. "No, Isubat. I just missed you all of a sudden." Her body stiffened for a brief second. Then she began patting my back, just like she had done when I was a small child, soothing me to sleep. There now, she said, a gentle laugh in her tone. "You are about to get married. Why are you acting so clingy? Once General Ruanhan comes back from the frontier, your wedding will take place. Then I will have nothing left in this world to worry over." I hugged her as tightly as I possibly could. I buried my face in the curve of her shoulder. "Yes," I whispered. "I will marry into the general's household safely, and then I will bring you to live with me." Her hands paused. She spoke in a quiet murmur. What kind of mother goes to live in her daughter's household? As long as you live well, I could die happy. I pretended to feel cross. Absolutely not. I want you to stay beside me forever. You will also help me watch over my children. A bright smile bloomed across my mother's face. Very well. I will do as you say. I sat beside her while she kept working on my wedding dress. All the while, I kept one ear open, listening for any commotion outside our chamber. About the length of time it takes for one incense stick to burn down, a maid named Xiaoa stumbled into the room. She was gasping for breath. "Madam, something terrible has happened," she cried out. "The second young lady is in huge trouble." My mother glanced toward me where I sat beside her. She let out a sharp huff. "What foolish talk are you spouting? Xiao Xiao is right here with me. How could disaster fall upon her?" Xiaoa looked utterly confused and shocked when she laid eyes on me. She stammered over her own words. But everyone out in the courtyard is saying that the second young lady climbed into the elder uncle's bed." My mother flew into a blazing rage. "That is complete nonsense. Xiao Xiao has been with me this entire time. Who is spreading these vicious lies?" I held my furious mother back with one hand. My voice stayed calm and steady. "Mother, this is most likely some misunderstanding. Let us walk over together. Once people see that I am right beside you, these rumors will fade away of their own accord." My mother gripped my hand firmly. Her face had turned pale. Yes, I will go find your father immediately." Noise and chaos echoed from the guest quarters. I could already guess exactly what had taken place. My elder sister had marched over with servants to catch me in adultery. Instead, she had found my stepmother tangled in that bed. Even with that shock, she still hoped to save her own mother's reputation. She would try hard to twist everything around, insisting that it was me in that bed. If she succeeded, the visiting guests would not dig deeper. They would simply accept her version of events. My elder sister's heart was truly cold. For the sake of safeguarding her own two children's futures, she was fully willing to destroy my reputation and my upcoming marriage. What right did any of them have to ruin my life? My mother and I hurried toward the guest rooms. Halfway there, my older brother Du Qing blocked our path, flanked by several household guards. Our aunt stepped forward, putting herself in front of us. "Du Qing," she called. "What is the meaning of this?" Du Qing glanced my way. Guilt showed plainly across his features. "Xiao Xiao, I truly am sorry, but I cannot let you step out before all these guests today." My mother instantly understood his plan. Trembling with unbridled anger, she shouted at him. "You wish to drag my daughter's good name through mud? May lightning strike you down, you beast." I stepped forward. My gaze turned icy as I fixed it on my brother. "And what if I insist on going?" Du Qing waved his hand. The guards advanced, ready to seize hold of me. I pulled a small carved token out of my sleeve. "Who dares lay a hand on me?" I called out loud. "I am the betrothed bride of Cavalry General Wanhan. This token belongs to the Crown Prince. To see this token is equal to standing in the Crown Prince's own presence. Fall to your knees this instant." The guards froze in their tracks. None of them dared move closer.
But du Chenges résolve ardende.
He ground his teeth together. Locked the second young lady inside the side chamber. 100 taels of silver for every man who carries this out. For ordinary working men, the Crown Prince felt far away. Cold hard silver money was something they could reach out and touch. At those words, the guards advanced toward me again. My fingers tightened around a dagger hidden inside my wide sleeve. I prepared to drive its point straight into the eye of the first man bold enough to grab me. Right then, a clear, powerful voice boomed out across the courtyard. "Who gave you permission to touch my fiancé?" Segment 3. Wanhan returns. A man stepped out from the deep shadows. He had broad, strong shoulders and a slim waist. He was handsome and upright. He cast his eyes over Du Qing, every word dripping with cold displeasure. "Young Master Du," he said. "Do you choose to ignore the Crown Prince's token now?" Du Qing's face darkened the second he saw Wanhan. "Wanhan," he blurted out. "Weren't you stationed far away on the frontier? When did you ride back into the capital city?" Wanhan's gaze drifted over to my face. He let out a sharp huff. "Someone dared to bully my promised wife. Naturally, I came back to stand up for her. He strode over to me in just a few long steps. Moonlight carved sharp lines across his features. You could spot the tiredness from his long journey in his eyes. Even so, joy at seeing me shone bright. He looked down at me, speaking cautiously. I hope I have not arrived too late? A sharp, aching feeling pricked at the back of my throat. In my past life, Wanhan had not returned at this moment. By the time he finally traveled home, everything had already been irreparably broken. I had met him on a road when I was trapped inside the Marquis household. Back then I had acted stubbornly, telling him I simply craved the glory and rank of being a Marquis's wife. Sorrow filled his eyes. He thought I had turned into some shallow, greedy woman. With eyes rimmed red, he asked what wrong he had done to push me away. I had told him to think of me as shameless. After that, he departed the capital, returning to the frontier. He never came back while I lived, and I heard no stories of him ever taking a wife. Seeing my eyes welling up with tears now, Wanhan grew alarmed. Jiao Shao, what is hurting you? Who has wronged you? Tell me, and I will deal with them. I held my tears under control. We need to go to the guest room. People are spreading lies. They claim I have been having an affair with another man. Wanhan's expression turned pitch black in an instant. He did not waste time asking extra questions. He pulled his short sword free from his waist. He scanned the whole assembly of people. Who dares block our path further? He warned them. Do not blame my blade for being merciless. Everyone knew how skilled he was as a warrior. The guards shrank backward, unwilling to stand in our way. Wanhan shielded my mother and me as we walked forward. Du Chang sank down onto his knees. Xiao Xiao, I beg of you, do not go inside. From this day onward, I will serve you like an ox or a horse. I kept walking forward without pause. I was only giving back every injury they had dealt me in my former life. Why could they not bear to receive what they had given? Guests stood packed inside the courtyard, whispering to each other. My elder sister blocked the doorway of the guest room. Her face was ashen gray. She squeezed her handkerchief so hard her knuckles whitened. She swayed unsteadily on her feet. That her original scheme had been to lead people to catch me in that scandalous bed. But now, the person lying beneath those covers was her own birth mother. My elder sister drew in a deep breath. She spoke to our father. Father, Xiaoa became confused for a moment. Please grant her forgiveness this once. My own days are numbered. I am willing to let her be united with my husband. She bowed her head and dabbed at the corner of her eye with her handkerchief. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Piers stepped out of the bedchamber. His robe collar sat crooked and rumpled. His face was clouded with rage. He glanced out over all the onlookers and spoke gravely to my father. Father-in-law, given these events, I shall take responsibility for the second young lady. My elder sister shot him one quick, sharp glance. The watching guests shifted their opinions instantly. A shameful scandal looked ready to twist into a romantic match. They started laying on flattery thick and fast. They praised my elder sister for being so generous and virtuous. They complimented our household's fine upbringing. They said Piers acted honorably. But whenever their eyes turned toward me, scorn and contempt showed plainly. They muttered that a concubine's daughter would always be shameless, reckless enough to climb into her brother-in-law's bed. My father's face flushed red, then paled. He was about to give his consent to this arrangement. Father! I called out. I walked straight through the gathered crowd. I stepped into the brightest pool of light. I met my elder sister's bloodless face, and I saw panic flash across Piers' features. I wore a soft little smile. I bowed respectfully to my father. Then I turned and curtsied for all the assembled guests, so every single person could get a clear look at my face. Father, I said aloud. What has taken place here? Why has everyone gathered in this courtyard? Every voice fell silent. All whispering died completely. My elder sister's face crumpled with despair. #segment 4. The truth unfolds. People exchanged confused glances. I was standing right there, safe and sound. So who was the person lying on that bed inside the guest room? Quiet whispers broke out. Could Piers and my elder sister really have plotted to frame me? Where is the lady of the house? Someone else murmured. Everyone's expression shifted into unease. After such a huge family disgrace, shouldn't the mistress of the household step forward to take charge? Why had my stepmother not shown herself at all? Suspicion grew heavier in my father's gaze that my elder sister hurried to make an excuse. Ah, it must have been a young maid I mistook for my sister. That explanation held no weight at all. How could she mix up a servant girl with her own younger sister? And Piers had made the very same mistake. Had his eyes grown so poor that he could not tell people apart? My father's stare turned heavy. He looked toward the closed chamber door. I smiled toward my elder sister. Is that really what happened? If a maid acted with such bold shamelessness, should she not be dragged out as a warning for every servant in the house? Otherwise our whole household will descend into chaos. Wanhan moved forward. The ferocious aura he had forged out on the battlefield hung thick around him. I, too, would very much like to meet this mysterious maid who gave you cause to slander my betrothed wife. Only then did all the guests truly notice Wanhan standing there. Surprise spread across their faces. Even though his family's fortunes had dipped, Wanhan, their sole heir, had one great merit on the frontier. He enjoyed close favor with the crown prince. Everyone could see his future would shine brilliantly. Several guests immediately switched sides and agreed my reputation needed defending. My elder sister tried to block our path. Piers also moved to hold Wanhan back. Meanwhile, my birth mother slipped in through a side passage. My elder sister tried to stop her, but it was already far too late. My mother ripped aside the bed curtains. Her voice cut sharp through the air. Let me see exactly which wicked girl dares to slander my daughter. The next instant, a shocked scream echoed all around the courtyard. Madam? How can this be you? Complete silence fell over the whole yard. My elder sister's skin turned as pale as paper. My father stumbled backward, catching himself against a wooden corridor pillar. Every pair of eyes snapped toward the bed. The room blazed with lamplight. The bed hangings were thrown wide open. My stepmother huddled in the far corner of the mattress. Her clothing was rumpled and disarranged. The flush of recent intimacy still lingered on her cheeks. She lifted her head and met hundreds of wide-eyed stares from outside the doorway. Her complexion shifted from flushed red to deathly white, then to a sick gray shade. She dragged the quilt over her whole body, hopeless terror written all over her face. Piers stood frozen by the door. His face alternated between pale and flushed. He pressed his lips into a thin hard line, staring fixedly down at the stone floor. Whispers buzzed all around. Everyone had expected to find me in that bed. Instead they saw my stepmother. Shame crashed over those two people like a tidal wave. I kept my head bowed. I pretended to look shocked. But inside my heart, I was triumphant. In my old life, thousands of people had pointed fingers at me. They called me vile and shameless. I had knelt on stone ground, trying to defend myself. My tears had run dry. Yet nobody believed a single word I spoke. Scorn and insult crashed over me wave after wave. Now their turn had arrived. I watched my stepmother curl and tremble under the sheets. That once proud face now held nothing but fear and humiliation. Piers endured countless strange stares from every guest present. He was utterly disgraced at every injury they had heaped onto me in my past life. I was paying back to them bit by bit. How did it feel to walk in my old shoes? The scandal was massive. If word spread outside these walls, the Dew family's good name would be destroyed completely. My father's eyes were red. He bowed deeply toward all his guests. He begged them to keep what they had seen a secret. He swore the Dew family would repay each of them generously in days to come. All visiting families readily gave their word, though nobody could know what judgments they held deep inside their hearts. Once the crowd dispersed, Wanhan stayed right beside me. My father looked toward him, his thoughts tangled and complicated. Wanhan was young, favored heavily by the crown prince, and had earned high praise from the emperor for his frontier victories. The Dew family simply could not afford to offend him. Nephew, my father began. Today's shame comes from my failure to run this household properly. I will come to your residence at a later time to offer my formal apologies. Uncle, you need not speak so formally, Wanhan replied, his tone cold. Jiao Shao is my promised bride. Whatever concerns her concerns me. Her innocence matters above everything else. My father could only nod. Lost for words. Servants helped my stepmother to her feet. She kept her head hung low, too ashamed to meet anyone's gaze. My elder sister stood nearby. Her face drained of color. Suddenly she spoke up. Father, mother must have been the victim of a plot. She would never do such a thing. My stepmother lifted her head. Her eyes were swollen red. She shot me a look filled with venomous hatred. It was you, she screamed. You planned every bit of this on purpose. I stepped half a pace backward. My expression held perfect confusion and innocent bewilderment. Mother, whatever are you talking about? Her lips shook violently. Rage nearly bulged her eyes out of her skull. She tried to shout more accusations, but only broken whimpers escaped her throat. If she spoke out loud, she would have to admit she had drugged the soup. That would drag my elder sister down right alongside her. If she stayed silent, she had to swallow this bitter humiliation all alone. My father looked at my stepmother with open disgust, as if she were something filthy. His voice turned icy. This matter ends here today. Madam has suddenly fallen gravely ill. From this moment forward, she will remain confined to her quarters. No person is permitted to disturb her rest. Among wealthy noble households, everyone understood what sudden grave illness truly meant. A wife locked away to recover would not survive long. My stepmother's legs gave way. She collapsed onto the stone floor. My elder sister hurried over to support her. The two of them clung to each other, sobbing bitterly. My birth mother squeezed my hand tight. Her whole body shook. Segment 5. The journey home and Wanhan's secret. On our way back toward our rooms, my birth mother trembled like a dry autumn leaf caught in wind. She held onto my hand so firmly, I thought she might crush my bones. I gripped her right back, repeating soft reassurances over and over. It will be all right. Everything will be all right. She stopped walking. Tears streamed down her face. She pulled me into a crushing embrace. I could barely draw breath. How could they be so cruel? She wept. I never fought against her. I never competed for status. All I wanted was to raise you safely. Yet she plotted to drug you. After decades living deep inside inner-house politics, she could read these schemes instantly. She fully understood what had just unfolded. Their original goal had been to ruin my reputation. Hatred blazed in her eyes. I will get revenge for you. I did not want her to let hatred eat away at her spirit. She loved wearing fancy hair ornaments and beautiful new gowns. She deserved to keep those simple joys in life. Mother, I am safe, I told her. I held her hands gently. You saved me today. You were the one who pulled aside those bed curtains and laid the whole truth bare for everyone to witness. She stared at me in shock. Tears still clung to her eyelashes. I protected you? Yes, you did. All at once she broke down, laughing and crying at the same time. I tidied her disheveled hair and slipped her fallen hairpin back into place. Wanhan stood some distance behind us. He watched my mother and me. A flicker of quiet envy crossed his face. When Wanhan was still a teenager, both of his parents had died from sickness. Only old household servants looked after his daily needs. Servants could never replace the warmth of family love. That I still remembered our first encounter. I had been out on a city street with my mother. I tugged at her sleeve, begging for candied hawthorn fruit. Wanhan had seen me then. Later he told me he thought I was a spoiled little girl. We met a second time inside a temple. A gang of fugitives attacked us. I had defended my mother and stabbed the gang leader's eye with my dagger. That time he thought I was surprisingly fierce. He could not explain exactly how he grew to care for me so deeply. He became a rising star in court. The emperor held him in high regard. Countless noble families hoped to arrange a marriage with him. Even so, he came directly to the Du household, asking for my hand in marriage. Me, a daughter born to a concubine. Once my mother and I had calmed down, Wanhan stepped forward. He spoke softly. From this day on, as long as I draw breath, no one will ever hurt you. Afraid that new danger might strike through the night, Wanhan sat perched in a tree inside our courtyard until dawn. Before he took his leave, he spoke. I did not think everything through fully before. Do not fear. I will arrange every detail for you moving forward. I caught hold of his sleeve. A question had been stuck in my throat. I could no longer hold it back. Why did you return to the capital exactly at this moment? In my past life, when I married Piers, Wanhan was stationed far away at the frontier. But in this new life, he showed up right at our most critical hour. That a strange look crossed Wanhan's face. Not long ago, a voice kept ringing inside my head over and over. It urged me to ride back to the capital. It felt as if I did not hurry home, something terrible would happen that I would regret for all my days. So I came back earlier than planned. I froze. Some unseen power was shifting fate for us. Perhaps heaven had witnessed how horribly I had suffered in my past life, and it was rewriting the path of my destiny. That same afternoon, Wanhan sent 2 skilled female servants over to our estate. He explained these women were on loan from the Crown Prince's palace. They could defend and guard me. Once my wedding ceremony finished, they would go back to the Eastern Palace. That my birth mother returned home later that day. Guilt weighed heavy on her heart. Am I completely useless? She asked me, hanging her head and twisting her handkerchief in her fingers. I had imagined hating my stepmother. I had pictured wanting to crush her hands and spit in her face. But when I actually stood face to face with her, I could not bring myself to strike. I squeezed my mother's hands. You are not useless at all. You are simply too kind to this world. Do not force yourself to carry heavy grudges. Just live for the things you enjoy. Her tears stopped. A weight seemed to lift off her shoulders. She smiled. She promised to embroider the most magnificent wedding dress for me. She wanted every person in the capital to admire my bridal robes. My father resented both my mother and me. My mother had pulled back those curtains and brought terrible public shame to the Du clan. Still, nobody dared mistreat us. Thanks to Wanhan's influence, my father would not dare skimp on my dowry. 2 days passed. Messengers arrived from the Marquis residence. My gravely ill elder sister requested to see me one final time. Segment 6. The Marquis's downfall. You must not go, my mother warned me. She definitely harbors evil intentions. I held her hands and spoke calmly. Rest easy. I will return unharmed. 10 long years of humiliation and hatred have haunted every single night of my sleep. I am no saint. I cannot repay cruelty with kindness. Some wrongs demand vengeance. My mother stared at me for a long stretch of time. She did not try to stop me any further. You have grown into a strong young woman. You are braver than I ever was. I traveled to the Marquis mansion with one maid at my side. My elder sister leaned against her bed. Her cheeks had sunken deep. She looked like an oil lamp whose flame was nearly burned out. When she caught sight of me, tears rolled down her face. Jiao Shao, she whispered. I was wrong. She stretched out her hand toward me. I stood perfectly still and did not move an inch. I treated you as my own little sister. It is only right that you hate me. But I do not have many days left. Can you set aside your anger out of pity for me? She coughed hard for a while, catching her breath before she kept speaking. You will wed General Wanhan. His future shines bright. I only beg you for one small favor. My 2 children are still so young. Will you look out for them from time to time? I stayed silent. My elder sister struggled to lift herself from the bed, but her maids held her gently back onto the mattress. Jiao Shao, remember our bond as sisters. Grant me this request. Memories drifted back. Before all these disasters unfolded, our sisterly bond had been warm and genuine. She had treated me kindly, sharing tasty treats and little amusements with me. That was why in my past life, I never once suspected she would trick and drug me. When Piers finally told me the whole truth, my hatred burned hotter than ever. My elder sister noticed my hesitation. She was about to speak more, when a maid called out from outside the room. Miss has fallen. It looks as though she hurt her leg. My elder sister's expression twisted with panic. She grabbed my wrist and begged desperately. Jiao Jiao, please go check on my child. I beg you. You are all I have left. I looked at her gaunt, pale features. Nothing remained of her once plump, pretty appearance. Very well, I answered. I pulled free of her grip and walked out of the bedchamber. The maid led me down long twisting corridors, past rockery formations. At last we halted before a tightly closed door. She is inside this room. The maid told me. I pushed open the door and stepped inside by myself. There was no young girl there at all. Only Piers stood waiting. He wore a deep blue silk robe. Even as a father of 2 children, he remained handsome, like a carefully painted portrait. But I knew corruption hid underneath that fine surface. Where is the young lady? I asked. Piers turned toward me. A strange glint sparkled in his eyes. He looked exactly like a hunter watching prey walk straight into his trap. He advanced toward me. I stepped backward. He stopped 2 paces away from my body. His voice held condescending ease. Jiao Xiao, you are the one who put my wife's mother into my bed that night, are you not? I lifted one eyebrow. I dropped all pretense. Yes. That was my doing. Did you find the experience unsatisfying? Darkness washed over Piers' face. His Adam's apple bobbed up and down. He fought hard to hold back powerful emotions. He had always prided himself on being honorable and clean living. Now he had shared a bed with a woman old enough to be his mother. Just thinking about it filled him with lifelong disgust. He stared hard at me. A cruel smile spread across his lips. Do you believe you will walk out of here today? I let you escape once. This time you will not get away. Do not fear. I will treat you far better than that brute Wanhan. He advanced step by step toward me. I did not run or flinch. Confusion flickered across his brow. He had expected me to panic. Silently, the back window creaked open a crack. One of Wanhan's skilled maids slipped into the room. Before Piers could react, she twisted both his arms behind his back in a blur of sharp movements. He grunted and crashed down onto his knees on the floor. Miss, what shall we do next? The maid asked. Tie him up. I ordered that they gagged Piers and bound him securely to a wooden chair. Real fear finally showed on his handsome cold features. I walked up to him and looked down. You are the man I hate most in all this world. You are a faithless husband and a cold-hearted father. My elder sister lived in terror before she died, because she understood exactly how selfish you are. She knew you would never care for her children properly. You knew I already had a fiancé. Still, you joined my stepmother's plot to drug me and ruin my whole life. You are nothing but a hypocrite. Piers' eyes grew wide. He made muffled, furious noises behind his gag. I curled my lips. You wonder why I dared to come to this marquee mansion knowing how dangerous it is? I came here so you would receive the punishment you deserve. I drew my dagger from my sleeve. Piers thrashed violently. The chair creaked under his struggles. Despair flooded his face. Tears streamed down his cheeks. All his elegant noble composure vanished completely. Looking at his broken face, a strange quiet calm settled over my heart. I gripped my dagger firmly and struck. Blood seeped through his robes. His body jerked in terrible pain. Then his head lolled sideways. He fainted dead away. The maid stepped forward to check his condition, then nodded toward me. The deed was done. I pulled a handkerchief from my sleeve and wiped every trace of blood off my fingers in a slow, unhurried motion. The maid pushed open the rear window and held out a hand toward me. I threw one final glance at Piers slumped in that chair. I turned and climbed out through the window. Heavy footsteps thundered toward the chamber. The door burst open. My elder sister had arrived with her servants. She caught sight of Piers unconscious and mutilated in that chair. She let out one piercing scream. Her eyes rolled backward. She collapsed onto the floor, and she never woke up again. Piers' household rushed for physicians. He had no attention left to spare for anything else. My elder sister's funeral was held in plain, understated fashion. The mourning hall felt empty and desolate. My brother Du Cheng got into a shouting fight with Piers. She bore you 2 children. Du Cheng roared. And this is how you honor her memory? He grabbed Piers by the collar. Anger burned in Du Cheng's eyes. Hatred flared in Piers' gaze. He gritted his teeth. If it were not for her, would I have ended up in this state? Du Cheng stared, confused. What has happened to you? Piers' chest heaved up and down. His face alternated between pale and flushed. But in the end he kept silent. He could never speak of a wound that struck so hard at a man's dignity. That vague whispers about that night at the Du household began to circulate through the capital city. Several new operas were written telling tales of a mother-in-law and son-in-law. I did not attend my elder sister's funeral. That only fed more gossip. That my wedding to Wanhan was scheduled 2 months away. The crown prince's household showed great favor toward Wanhan. They sent staff to assist with my dowry preparations. My father added an extra 20% wealth to my marriage gifts. My birth mother looked at me dressed in bright red bridal garments. Tears streamed down her cheeks. At last my daughter marries as a proper wife. I have no regrets left in this life. You and your husband must treat each other well. Do not be stubborn or petty. Husband and wife need to learn to bear with one another. I understand. I told her that noise suddenly erupted outside our window. My mother grew anxious. What is going on? A maid stepped inside. She wore a small smile. Nothing serious. A petty thief broke in, but we have caught him. My mother relaxed. I glanced toward the maid. She gave me a quiet nod and whispered in my ear, Piers sent men to abduct you. They have all been captured. When I left my family home on my wedding day, my mother cried uncontrollably. The bridal procession stretched for 10 firecrackers popped and cracked everywhere. I sat inside the flower-decorated sedan chair, clutching red silk fabric tight in my hands. Outside, Wanhan rode upon a fine horse. He looked proud and full of spirit. Wind lifted the sedan curtain. A faint male voice drifted inside to my ears. Jiao Shao, may you know happiness. I shuddered. I lifted my head quickly. Nobody else sat inside the sedan with me. #segment 7. The truth behind the second chance. Red candles burned bright, filling the wedding chamber with warm golden light. I eventually drifted off into deep sleep. I dreamed of endless yellow desert sand. I had never journeyed to the frontier, yet I knew exactly where this place was. An aged Wanhan stood before a crumbling old temple. He faced a high Buddhist monk from western lands. His voice was rough and worn. Master, he said, I carry a regret so heavy it will not let me rest, even in death. I will pay any price to make amends. Is there a way? The monk stayed silent for a very long time. Then he spoke slowly. General, you have protected our nation and its people. You have accumulated immense merit. With that merit, plus 100 years of lonely wandering as a spirit in the underworld, you might grasp one thin thread of possibility. He paused for a moment. Your merit could buy you a lifetime of wealth, smooth fortune, freedom from sickness and disaster in your next life. Think carefully on this choice. Wanhan did not hesitate for even one heartbeat. He dropped to his knees. His voice rang firm and resolute. I would trade all of that for her to live one safe, untroubled life. The old monk chanted a Buddhist prayer. Foolish child. Sand and wind blurred everything around me. I woke from my dream. My face was soaked with tears. I finally understood whose voice I had heard inside my bridal sedan chair. It was exactly Wanhan's voice from that dream. In my past life, Wanhan had sacrificed his own merit and 100 years of lonely spirit existence, just to grant me this fresh start in life. Wanhan woke beside me. He saw my tear-streaked cheeks. He sat bolt upright. Alarm colored his tone. Jiao Shao. What is wrong? Did you suffer a nightmare? I threw myself straight into his arms. I wrapped both hands tight around his neck. He was shocked for a second. Then he held me firmly. He rested his chin on top of my head, patting my back very gently. It is all right, he murmured. I am here. 3 days after our wedding, misfortune hit the Du household. Du Qing knew that once I was married, my birth mother might well be killed. He plotted to sneak her away in the confusion. My father learned of this scheme and flew into a rage. My stepmother, hoping to keep Du Qing from punishment, threw herself against a stone pillar and died. In his grief and anger, my father shoved Du Qing. My father lost his footing. He fell backward. The back of his skull smashed against a sharp stone. By the time physicians arrived, he was already dead. Killing one's own father counted as an unforgivable capital crime. Du Qing was sentenced to immediate beheading. Before his execution, Du Qing begged for one meeting with me. The prison was dim and damp. The air smelled of mildew and rusted iron. Du Qing sat on dry straw dressed in prisoner's rags. His hair was matted and messy. When he saw me, his dull eyes lit up for a brief instant. I had a dream, he told me. Things unfolded differently there. You married into the Marquis estate. Everyone remained safe and happy. Mother stayed the most respected noble lady in the capital. He turned his head and stared intently at me. Pain and hatred swirled in his gaze. Why could you not accept marrying the Marquis? Why did you have to destroy everything? That would never have been a good outcome, I answered him. Should I sacrifice myself to buy your peace and comfort? That happiness you dreamed of was built upon tossing me into a pit of fire. Your so-called safe world came at the cost of my suffering, my mother's suffering, and Wanhan's suffering. Even if I could restart this life 100 times, I would still choose the path I walk today. Du Cheng's face drained of color inch by inch. He hung his head. He buried his face in both palms. His shoulders shook violently as he wept. I stood outside the prison cell. I watched my older brother, the same boy who once fought household servants to defend me, cry like a broken, helpless animal. I turned and walked away. Behind me, I heard his hoarse voice call out, "Jiaoshao, I am sorry." I did not look back. I stepped out of the prison gates. Bright sunlight burned my eyes. Wanhan waited beside our carriage. He held out his hand toward me. I walked forward and placed my hand into his. His palm was warm, completely wrapping around mine. "Let us go," he said. I answered. A soft smile spread across my lips. Word spread all over the capital about Pierre's terrible injury. He became the city's laughingstock. His once busy mansion grew quiet and empty. He tried countless folk remedies and spent vast sums of gold. Yet his condition never improved. His health crumbled completely. One day, he flew into a fit of rage against one of his maids. He grabbed her by the neck and slammed her body against a wall. Several other maids could endure his cruelty no longer. They worked together to pin him down and strangled him with a cloth sash. By the time his half-brother arrived, Pierre's body had already grown cold. The Marquis household did not report this to authorities. They simply announced he had died of illness. His half-brother inherited the title. Pierre's memorial tablet got tucked away in a forgotten corner of the ancestral hall. They even skipped the customary sacrificial offerings for his spirit. My elder sister's 2 children spotted me once on a city street. They walked behind the new Marchioness. Their expressions carried shadows far too heavy for children so young. I pulled my gaze away. Those ungrateful children I had tended in my old life held no connection to me in this new world. 1 more year rolled by. I gave birth to a baby daughter. My mother held her granddaughter in her arms, grinning from ear to ear. "She has your features," she said happily. "And that stubborn temper belongs to you as well." After my father's passing, clan elders divided all the Du family property between themselves. The huge family mansion emptied out in the blink of an eye. I brought my birth mother to the general's residence. I gave her the brightest courtyard inside our estate. We planted camellia flowers, her favorite bloom, all around every window. My mother stared out over the camellia-filled yard. Tears streamed down her face. I never dared to dream I would live such good days. Many more good days still lie ahead, I told her. I linked my arm through hers and walked with her into the building. That night, Wanhan held me close in our bed. He spoke softly all of a sudden. "Only now do I truly feel I have a home." I said nothing. I nestled deeper into his embrace. Outside, moonlight shone beautifully down onto the cradle, where our baby daughter slept peacefully.